Welcome back, everyone. Let's go ahead and do a 2021 comparison between the iPhone 11 and the iPhone XS Max. Now, what I can tell you is for sure, obviously, if you have the money, the iPhone 11 is a better one, but the iPhone XS Max has some characteristics too that make it a better device. Now, if people want to pick up either one of these, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. Now, side by side, you can see the XS Max, still the bigger one. They didn't get a software update that made one bigger than the other one. The XS Max has that 6.5-inch Super Retina OLED display, whatever they called it at that time, and this is a very good panel. The notch doesn't even look super big. Of course, there's a notch on it, but it doesn't look like massive. Very little bezel around the whole entire panel. A very good resolution too, which is really nice. And I think this panel overall is a very good panel for sure, better than the iPhone 11. The 11, on the other hand, has a smaller 6.1-inch IPS panel. Now, it's not an OLED, and it is smaller, but it really doesn't look that bad. I've said this for years, but I think the iPhone 11's panel is still pretty good. The XS Max, I think, has the better panel overall, but the iPhone 11's panel is still good enough for the most part. In terms of thinness and thickness between the two, I think they're kind of the same. Maybe the iPhone, I don't know, they both feel kind of the same, to be honest. And on the back, the last box on both, I do have skin on the XS Max, dual camera setups as well, wireless charging, the whole 9 yards, lightning ports at the bottom. They pretty much have the same thing, IP certification as well. So that really pretty much covers it up in terms of the outside. There's not a whole lot left to hit on. I will tell you though, one of the bigger differences between these two, more so probably the chipsets, but also the software within them. They're both running iOS 14 right now, but there's going to be a time probably in a couple of years from now where the iPhone 11 is still going to be getting software updates, where the iPhone XS Max is not going to be getting any software updates. So that's a massive thing to keep in mind. So what does this mean? This essentially means that right now, they're both going to be ending off probably around each other because they're only 1 year apart. But even though the iPhone 11 was a cheaper phone than when the iPhone XS came out, you have to keep in mind that the XS Max has a year-old chipset compared to the iPhone 11. So this is a massive difference. You're going to be getting a longer lifespan from a device right now from the iPhone 11 than on the iPhone XS Max. That's a massive thing to keep in mind. They're both going to be lasting for quite a bit of time anyway right now. But as I mentioned before, that is one of the main things to keep in mind right now. So in terms of that pretty much covers it up in terms of the software standpoint. But the battery life is also another pretty big advantage for the iPhone 11. This device has kind of like a bigger battery than the XS Max. They're like roughly around the same, to be honest. But the bigger thing to keep in mind is that the iPhone 11, because of the more optimized chipset, the low resolution panel, and also because the panel is smaller, this device had a really good battery life. It was very impressive. I love the battery life from this phone. The XS Max's battery life was still pretty good, but the iPhone 11 for sure had the better battery life when it came down to these two for sure. So in terms of that, those cover up pretty much the main differences, in terms of the outside software and the battery life. Now let's go into a speed comparison between both these devices. The iPhone 11 had that Apple A13 Bionic chip inside of it with 4 gigabytes of RAM, where the iPhone XS Max had that Apple 12 Bionic chip inside of it with 4 gigabytes of RAM as well. So let's go and see which one is the faster one between both of these. Okay, now that we're back, as you can see, there's a little bit of difference. All the apps are cleared on the background, as you guys can tell. So let's get started. Let's go and do their phone calls. 3, 2, 1. And there we go. Pretty much around the same thing on both. Let's do app stores. 3, 2, 1. And the XS Max actually was a little bit faster. The iPhone 11 was very slow. For some reason, these phones, even the newer ones, are very slow to load up the app stores. So I'll never really understand those swiping through. I think the iPhone 11 is actually seeming to be a little bit smoother. So that pretty much covers it up, that one. Now, as always, we can go and hit on these third-party apps. And the iPhone 11 has a ton of them. Let's get started. Let's do Fruit Ninja. 3, 2, 1. And again, they're both running the same versions of software. I don't know why the XS Max actually just closed out of that one, as you guys can see. It's still in the background, so I'll have to give that one to the iPhone 11. Let's do Thank You. 3, 2, 1. And the iPhone 11 was the faster one there. Getting into some gameplay. Actually, I just want to see these graphics. And you can see they both do a pretty good job with the graphics that's within the games themselves. Hopping out of this one, let's do Netflix. 3, 2, 1. And roughly around the same on both. Hopping out of this one, let's go and do Quizlet. 3, 2, I don't have it. Let's do Dropbox. 3, 2, 1. And I think the iPhone 11 was the faster one there. Hopping out of this one, let's go ahead and do Temple Run 2. 3, 2, 1. And I don't know why the XS Max keeps crashing. That is very strange. I guess we're just going to have to let those ones breathe, but that's a very strange thing that keeps happening with the iPhone XS Max. That must be a fairly new, recent glitch because I haven't seen that before. Let's do Facebook. 3, 2, 1. And the XS Max I think was faster, but the iPhone 11 was logged into an account. Twitter 321. iPhone 11 I think was the faster one there. Let's just see if the regular Temple Run works. 321. And again, the iPhone XS Max, I'm not really too sure what's going on. These games should theoretically be working on the XS Max, but it's a very strange glitch. I'm not really too sure what's going on there. Let's go and do stack. 3, 2, 1. And again, the iPhone XS Max is glitching up again. A very strange glitch. I'm not too sure which apps works and which ones don't. Snake versus blocks. 3, 2, 1. And the iPhone 11 was the faster one, the XS Max a little bit behind. And I don't know what's going on with the iPhone XS Max. It's a very strange glitch. I'm really glad I'm catching it on video though, so we can go ahead and kind of talk about it and bring that up with the XS Max and maybe make a separate video about it on the main channel. Bofa 3, 2, 1. iPhone 11 is faster, iPhone XS Max just a little bit behind. And I wanted to test more apps, but I don't know, there's really no point to. I think the iPhone XS Max is pretty much the slower one when it comes down to it every single time. There were some cases where the iPhone XS Max was faster, and I really don't think there's that big of a difference between them. I think they're roughly around the same. I don't think I would go from one device to the other just based off the performance. And you can see the RAM management is roughly around the same too. But there were a lot of glitches going on with the iPhone XS Max, so I'm not really too sure what happened there. But I think in terms of that, that pretty much covers up the speed comparison. Now let's go and hit on the cameras. As I mentioned before, dual camera setups on both. The XS Max has that 12 megapixel wide and 12 megapixel telephoto. The iPhone 11 has that 12 megapixel wide and 12 megapixel ultra wide sensor. With a phone like the iPhone XS Max, you're getting a very solid camera for the most part. Obviously, you have that telephoto lens, so you can zoom in a lot. You can zoom out a lot too, not really as much as the ultra wide sensor on the iPhone 11. 4K 60 on the back. Of course, only 1080p at 60 on the front. A little bit of an inconvenience, not like a massively crazy deal, but it is something that, like we're already getting 4K on all these phones. For this one to have 1080p at 60, it's kind of like going backwards. But this one came at a time where 4K at 60 wasn't really super popular in the front, even though the Galaxy S10 had the same one at this time. But portrait mode on this camera, it's a very solid camera for sure. If you need a phone to pick up because of the camera, this device is a pretty solid one at the end of the day. As always though, with a phone like an iPhone 11, you are going to be getting a beautiful camera from this thing. First of all, no telephoto lens, but you are having the ultra-wide sensor, which is a beautiful sensor for sure. You can go ahead and zoom out as much as you want to, and I think that is a massive thing to keep in mind with this phone. Of course, it's not perfect. There are some things that really they're not like my favorite thing, but I think as a whole, this is a very solid camera, and I think it's better than the iPhone XS Max, 4K 60 on the front and the back. I don't know if I already mentioned that. So you're getting an overall better sensor on the iPhone 11 for sure. I think the XS Max is still pretty good for the most part, but the iPhone 11 definitely wins when it comes down to the camera comparison. Now to kind of sum up this video and to answer the question, should you go and buy an iPhone 11? Should you go and buy an iPhone XS Max in 2021? Well, this is pretty much what I'll tell you. I don't think I would go from one of these phones to the other just based off the performance or based on really anything. I think both these phones are great phones. But I think if I had to choose one of these, I would probably end up picking an iPhone 11. I think it's a little bit more stable. The apps were crashing on the XS Max. I don't know what's going on there. And I like the longevity and the battery life of the iPhone 11. But on the flip side, the XS Max has really good build quality, better than the iPhone 11 because of the stainless steel sides and everything. But on top of that, it just looks more premium because of that screen. The big screen on the iPhone XS Max is beautiful. I love having a massive phone like this. The iPhone 11 is a pretty big phone too, but I love the display on the XS Max, and it definitely looks better than the iPhone 11s. I just didn't really understand why the iPhone XS was, glitching up today. It was very strange. I think the Max is beautiful. I love this phone a lot, but I'm not really too sure what happened there. Another massive thing to keep in mind is that with this phone, it's a little bit cheaper in the used market than a brand new iPhone 11. But a brand new iPhone 11, you have the capability of buying it brand new. So if you have to buy a brand new device, the iPhone 11 is the way to go. But if you want to buy a used device and you're comfortable with it, the XS Max is a better way to go there. I really don't think there's a perfect answer here, but I think if I had to choose one, the iPhone 11 is probably the better one I would go for. But the XS Max, very solid phone. Both these phones are comparable. They both have their pros and cons, but that's kind of how I would kind of sum up this specific video. As I mentioned, if you want to pick up either one of these, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. If you guys have any other questions or anything like that, let me know in the comment section as well. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count. So it means so much if you guys can hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my other channels. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.